Upadrishtamcha anumantamcha. I am witnessing whatever you are doing and I am sanctioning what you are desiring. So only He is the only one who knows anyone fully well. No other living entity can know other living entity fully well except Krishna. So His decision, His judgment is the best. We should surrender to that. Alright?
Yes, thank.
Anyone else? Hey Rohini, Haribo.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Today is a great day, Sri
Yeah.
Krishna Janmashtami.
Yes.
Does Krishna give any special gift on this special day?
Krishna will give special gift.
On this special day,
Why not? He will give.
what he will give?
What He will give? Wow. What Krishna will give? Today is a special day, no? What He will give? You go and ask anything, He will give. But be careful. Be very careful what you are asking. You know, if you don't ask proper things, Krishna may give those things which will trouble you a lot later. Shall I give you an example for that? Huh? One old lady, she was collecting wood from the forest, putting the wood in the basket and selling that wood and getting some little money. And by that she was maintaining her livelihood. One day, one sadhu came to her village and this lady went to the sadhu and said, "Sir, I have to travel a long distance to the forest and come back. There are many dangers are there in between. What should I do?" Then the sadhu said, "You simply chant Govinda. Govinda will come in front of you and whatever you ask, he will give you." But this lady has such immense faith in that words of the sadhu. So she went one day, she went to a forest like every other day. She went to the forest. She collected the dry wood, put the dry wood on the basket, and she was returning to the village to sell that. What happened? On the way, she somehow fell because something touched her legs. Something came as an obstacle for her legs and then she fell off. When she fell off, along with her, the basket, all the collected wood also scattered everywhere. Then she became very morose. Then she remembered the words of the sadhu. She said, "Oh Govinda, oh Krishna, where are you?" Krishna appeared in front of her. Then Krishna asked her, "My dear mother, what do you want?" Then you know what she asked? Can you guess what she asked? "Krishna, please collect all the wood which is scattered, put it in the basket, put it in my head." That is what she asked. हमको अकल नहीं है ना, तो उसको समझ में भी नहीं आता इसका क्या है. हाँ? If Krishna is there in front of you, will you ask a burden again? Such a big burden you are asking? Krishna can give you immediately liberation. Krishna can give you millions and millions and millions of rupees or dollars or gold coins by which you don't have to carry such a big burden of stock of wood. But still, because you're so foolish, because we don't know, we are thinking, "Oh, unless I sell the wood, I cannot get my maintenance. Unless I sell my wood, I cannot get the maintenance." You're so narrow-minded, because of which you go to Krishna and ask for little 1 rupee. You go to Karorpati and will you ask 1 rupee? No, you can ask much more. But because we don't have intelligence, that intelligence will come when we hear from great acharyas. What to ask Krishna? Don't try to rush to Krishna and ask whatever you want. You first learn what to ask from Krishna. You know what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said? He said, "Na dhanam, na janam, na sundarim, kavitam va jagadisha kamaye, mama janmani janmanishware, bhavatad bhaktir ahaitukitve." Oh my dear Krishna, I am not asking for money, dhanam. I am not asking for followers, janam. Na sundarim. I am not asking for beautiful women's association. Jagadisha kamaye. Even I am not asking for, superintendence over the whole universe. I am not even asking for liberation. Even if I am made to be born again and again, I don't mind. But I want to be your devotee. Give me an opportunity to serve you, my dear Krishna. Mama janmani janmanishware bhavata bhakti rahetu kitvahi. Give me an opportunity to render pure devotional service, my dear Krishna. So this is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is teaching us. What to ask Krishna. Not only Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all great acharyas are also teaching us. Kita janma ho jata tuvada bahirmukha brahma jane nahi Oh Krishna, if you want to give me birth again, give me birth as a small insect in the house of a devotee. Kita janma. Kitaka means very, very small, insignificant insect. You give me the life of an insect, I am happy in the house of a devotee. But don't give me Brahma Janma. Bahirmukha Brahma Janme nahi ash. That even if you made me a Brahma, but my face is turned away from Krishna. Bahirmukha Brahma Janma nahi ash. I am not asking for such Janma. See, such a beautiful prayer. So he is telling us what to ask from Krishna. Now you understood? What will you ask? Give her the mic. I want to hear from her. What will you ask Krishna today? He is very magnanimous. He is hearing already. Distance doesn't matter. You don't have to go directly and ask. He is hearing already. What will you ask?
I'll ask for give more concentration to hear classes
Oh,
and
very
do
good.
chanting.
Excellent design. Excellent design. So now you understood. You are hearing properly. As Gurudas Prabhu said, Gurudev Prabhu said, here she is hearing. She is a small child, but she is hearing much better than many others who are sitting here. She understood what is the essence of the answer. Thank you.
How can we be thankful for what Krishna has given us?
How can we be thankful? You want to ask anybody else? I have been speaking from last half an hour. People are getting bored, irritated also. Why don't you ask someone else? Radhesham Prabhu, Anandamaya Prabhu, Gurudev Prabhu. I think I am forcing you. Should I only answer? I only answer?
Prabhu, you are wish, Prabhu.
Oh, you only answer. So, what is the question again? How can we be thankful for?
What Krishna has given us and giving us.
And giving us. How can we be thankful? It's very simple. Very simple. Prabhupada told, this land was given by Pullareddy in 1973. So Prabhupada, when he went to Pullareddy ji, Prabhupada told one story, one small incident to Pullareddy. Prabhupada said, see, Mr. Pullareddy, have you seen people offering Ganges, oblations to Ganges? Then Pullareddy said, yes, I have seen people offering oblations to Ganges. How do they offer oblations? They take water from the Ganges with their two hands and then offer it to Ganges back. So Prabhupada said, similarly, whatever land you are giving, taking from Krishna and you are giving back to Krishna. And you are offering prayer to Krishna, my dear Krishna. Thank you for taking from me. Otherwise, I will become a thief. By keeping all your wealth in my command, I will become a thief. So, I am so very grateful that you are able to accept my service. So, your question is, how to be grateful while whatever Krishna is giving, offer it back to Krishna. Offer it
Back to
Offer it back to Krishna, not as if you are giving, but offer it back to Krishna with a grateful prayer that thank you Krishna for accepting it. If you don't accept my offering, I will become a thief. So thank you very much. You only gave this, but you are also giving me heart to give this to you back. And I am very grateful to you, Krishna. This is a proper way of offering something to Krishna. Right?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else?
ప్రభు ప్రెసెంట్ ఒక మూవీ సక్సెస్ఫుల్ గా రన్ అవుతుంది కృష్ణుడి మీద. ఇది అందులో ఒక కాలికి ఒక కడియం ఉంటుంది, అందులో ఆల్ మెడికల్ ప్రాబ్లమ్స్ కు సొల్యూషన్స్ ఉన్నాయన్నట్టు చూపించారు అన్నట్టు. ఈజ్ ఇట్ రియల్?
నేను ఆ మూవీ చూడలేదు, ఆ మూవీ గురించి నాకు తెలియదు,
ఓకే,
దాని గురించి ఏ సమాచారం నాకు తెలియదు. తెలియకపోయినా ఒకటి మాత్రం చెప్పగలను, అది నాన్ సెన్స్, అది హంబగ్.
సో మిస్లీడింగ్ చేస్తున్నట్టే కదా.
ఓఎస్.
ఓకే, హరే కృష్ణ.
హరే కృష్ణ. ప్రభు కృష్ణుడు మన అందరికీ చాలా ఇస్తుంది, మనకి శ్రేయభిలాషి. మనకు పరమాత్మ రూపంలో ప్రతి ఒక్కరి హృదయంలో ఉన్నాడు భగవంతుడు కృష్ణుడు. అయితే మనకు ఒకటి ఈ జ్ఞానాన్ని అందరికీ మన శుద్ధ భక్తులు పంపించాడు, ఆయన స్వయంగా వస్తున్నాడు. అయితే అతన్ని సిలిండర్ అయితే అన్ని ఆనందంగా ఉంటామనే జ్ఞానాన్ని ఎందుకు వీళ్ళకి తెలుసుకోవడం లేదు పబ్లిక్? చాలా మంది ఇప్పుడు కృష్ణుడు భగవంతుడు అన్ని ఇస్తున్నాడు, అన్ని అతనే ఇచ్చేది, మొత్తం అతనే ఇచ్చేదని భక్తుల ద్వారా వింటున్నాము. తర్వాత తను చెప్తున్నాడు. అయితే ఈ యొక్క ఆయనను సేవించుకుంటే ఆయన సిలిండర్ అయితే మనం ఆనందంగా ఉంటామనే జ్ఞానం ఎందుకు రావడం లేదు?
ఎందుకు రావడం లేదంటే మనకి కృష్ణుని మీద అసూయ ఉంది, అందువల్ల సమస్య. మనందరం ఎలాంటి వాళ్ళం తెలుసా? అడుగులేని బకెట్లు లాంటి వాళ్ళం. ట్యాప్ ఫుల్ ఓపెన్ ఉంది, నీళ్ళు దారగా కారుతుంది, ఒక్క బొట్టు అంటట్లేదు. ఎందుకు? పడినట్టు అలా వెళ్ళిపోతుంది. ఎందుకంటే మన యాటిట్యూడ్ సరిగ్గా లేదు. కృష్ణుని ఎడల మన యాటిట్యూడ్ సరిగ్గా లేదు. యాటిట్యూడ్ అంటే తెలుసా? దృక్పథం సరిగ్గా లేదు. అంటే కృష్ణుని మీద ప్రేమ లేదు, కృష్ణుని మీద కృతజ్ఞత భావం లేదు. కృష్ణుని ఎలా చూస్తున్నాం? ఇంకేమిస్తాడు, ఇంకెలా ట్రిక్ చేయాలి, ఇంకెలా మనం ఏడవాలి, ఎంత బాగా ఏడిస్తే ఏది సంపాదించవచ్చు అనేటువంటి యాటిట్యూడ్ తోనే ఉన్నాం. కానీ కృష్ణుని మీద మనకి కృతజ్ఞత గాని, ప్రేమ గాని, భావన గాని లేకపోవడం వల్ల అసూయ. పైగా ఇవి లేకపోవడం, ఇంకా ఉన్నవేమిటి? అసూయ చాలా ఉంది. అందుకే చూసారా అర్జునుడితో కృష్ణుడు ఏమంటున్నాడు? ఇదం తూతే గుహ్యతమం ప్రవక్ష్యామి అనసూయవే. నేను నీకు ఈ యొక్క రహస్యమైనటువంటి జ్ఞానాన్ని, మీరు అడిగారు కదా, జ్ఞానం మనకి ఎందుకు అంటట్లేదు? ఎందుకనంటే మనం కృష్ణుని ఎడల సరైనటువంటి దృక్పథం లేకపోవడం వల్ల, అంటే అసూయ కలిగి ఉండడం వల్ల. అందుకే కృష్ణుడు ఏమంటున్నాడు? నేను చెప్పిన విషయాల్ని నీకు అంటాలి అని అంటే, నీ హృదయంలో నిలవాలి అని అంటే నీకేం ఉండకూడదు? అసూయ ఉండకూడదు. అసూయ ఉన్నంత కాలం నీకు ఏ జ్ఞానము అంటదు. అందుకే ఫస్ట్ కృష్ణుడు అడిగినటువంటిది ఏమిటి? వైష్ణవుల్లో ఒక లక్షణం, మొట్టమొదటి లక్షణం అడిగింది ఏమిటి? అద్వేష్ట సర్వభూతానాం మైత్ర కరుణ ఏవచ. ద్వేష భావన ఉందనుకో, మనకి ఏ జ్ఞానము అంటదు. మరి ద్వేష భావన ఉందా లేదా అని మనందరం కూడా గుండె మీద చేసుకొని తెలుసుకోవాలనుకుంటే మనకు ఉందా లేదా? ద్వేష భావన ఉందా? ఒప్పుకుంటారు అందరూ? ఎట్లా గుర్తించడం? మనకి ద్వేష భావన ఉందని మనం ఎలా గుర్తిస్తాం చెప్పండి? పక్కోడు బాగా పచ్చగా ఉంటే మనం చూడలేకపోతాం, అవునా? నేను ఎంత మంచివాడిని, ధార్మికుడిని, నాకేం మంచి జరగట్లేదు, వాడికి మాత్రం చూడు దొంగ వెధవ రాస్కల్, వాడు మాత్రం బాగా ముందుకు వెళ్ళిపోతున్నాడు అని నీకు ఎప్పుడైనా అనిపించిందా? అంటే నీకేముంది? ద్వేషం. ద్వేషం ఉంటే ఏం రాదు? జ్ఞానం. సింపుల్. అందువల్ల ద్వేషాన్ని పూర్తిగా విడిచిపెట్టాలి, అప్పుడే మనకి భగవద్ జ్ఞానం లభిస్తుంది. చాలా సమయం అయిపోయింది, 11:15 అయిపోయింది. అయినా ఏం తినడానికి ఏం లేదులే ఈరోజు, ఫుల్ రాత్రి వరకు ఫాస్టింగ్. మళ్ళీ ఇప్పుడు కీర్తన స్టార్ట్ అవుతుంది. సో కీర్తనలో ఎవరైతే ఉండాలనుకున్నారో వాళ్ళు ఉండొచ్చు, మిగిలిన వాళ్ళు వారికి సేవలు ఉంటే వాళ్ళు వెళ్ళవచ్చు. సో వీఆర్ వెరీ గ్రేట్ఫుల్ టు these two stalwart devotees who are very old but still stood here for such a long time. Morning 8:30, now it's almost 11:30, 3 hours. It's not easy to stand, sit. When some junior fellows are speaking a lot and then they are simply listening, just see their magnanimity and their gracefulness. That is what is actually a real devotees. So very, very grateful to Anandamaya Prabhu and Gurudev Prabhu. We are very thankful for blessing us with your association. Also thankful to our very dear Radhesham Prabhu for being here. Thank you all very much for spending your valuable time and attention. Will again, yes? Huh? Okay. Many of you may not know that our spiritual master, His Divine Grace Jayapataka Swami Maharaj, who is one of the foremost disciples of Srila Prabhupada. Yesterday night, 11 o'clock, he arrived here and he is going to give a lecture at 7:30 in the evening today. So if you happen to be around, please be there. Don't try to squeeze in the space here because this space will be reserved for someone else. Squeeze in space outside. That also I must tell you. You have invited but not given us the space means, people will accuse me. So some space you will find outside somewhere, you squeeze in and you hear the lecture. All right. Also we have Kirtan all through the day. If you possible, you can participate in the Kirtan. All right. Thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada ki, Sri Sri Radha Madan Mohan, Sri Sri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra, Sri Sri Gaunithai ki, Sri Krishna Janmashtami Mahamotsav ki, Samaveta Gaur Bhakta Bunda ki, Gaur Premanande.
అది సినిమాగా ముందు రోజు 2-3 days ముందేమో చూడాలనిపిస్తుంది. చూడండి డైరెక్ట్ అదే అజ్మీర్ దర్గా ఏమని తెలుసా? అజ్మీర్ దర్గా కూడా అంతే. అజ్మీర్ దర్గా హిందువులు పోతలేరు. 80% హిందువులు అక్కడ షాపులలో నడిచేవి.
One of the things, challenging thing in Govardhanaka village is to have some manpower to develop that place. So brahmacharis who were all preaching in city did not want to leave their programs and go to the farm. They have so many programs in the city. And congregation has their offices. I mean, they have to go to their companies. And the weekend they can go to a farm, but who will go? So Maharaj requested Gaurang Prabhu to gather some brahmachari, team of brahmacharis, one full batch or two full batches, I think. Huh? Two full batches of brahmacharis, more than 30-40 brahmacharis were told. Actually, Gaurang Prabhu acts as an interface between Maharaj and the brahmacharis. Brahmacharis have multiple questions to Maharaj, which Gaurang Prabhu will pass to Maharaj and get answers from Maharaj and give it to brahmacharis. So, ultimately they all became convinced about Maharaj's desire to do that, and they all went to the farm. It's a very austere period. First 3-4 years, there are a lot of snakes, scorpions, frogs, new type of all 8.4 million species you will find there. Because when I was studying there in farm for a couple of years, we would go on a rainy day. On the way, you can see snakes crossing your way, and big crabs and scorpions and everything. And brahmacharis who are used to city life, or when they would see a crab, they would jump up. And that's the place they had to go and live. So Gaurang Prabhu was leading the team, and Maharaj had a very great vision for making the Vrindavan forest, as well as making many cottages for people to come and live, and Goshala, and nursery, and sewage treatment, and water harvesting. Like that, almost 24 and Gurukula, and then Bhaktivedanta Vidyapeetham. Like that, Maharaj had about 24 items. And every one of those items were initiated and set rolling by Gaurang Prabhu. He personally involved in each of those departments and overseeing them, encouraging the devotees, patting them and taking them ahead. So Maharaj even today very gratefully remembers Gaurang Prabhu's role as a project director in Govardhan Eco Village. So Gaurang Prabhu used to tell me that farm is the last thing I would want to go. Because in my life I always wanted to fly all over the globe and preach the message. He is a very vigorous preacher. As I told you in yesterday's talk, giving Srimad Bhagavatam classes and corporate seminars and companies, cultivating people. That is his very natural service for him. And he had to, another favorite service for him is cooking in Yatra for 5,000 devotees. That is one of his favorites. So, but he had to change his paradigm to a paradigm which his spiritual master wanted from him. So, then he had to study a lot of farm books. He had to go to international conferences and seminars where he has to go and present on farm-related water harvesting and things like that he had to do. So, here is a very shining example of somebody who is willing to bend one's paradigm to suit the paradigm of the spiritual master. So, that's a very laudable thing. So I also went for a couple of years to Govardhan Eco Village to study the Bhaktivedanta Vidyapeetham. They produced the Subodhini guides and also very well set course for Bhaktivedanta, Bhakti Vaibhava and all those courses. So now internationally it's very popular now. Gaurang Prabhu is the inspiration, and below him there is Gauranga Darshan Prabhu, Balram Shakti Prabhu, Radhika Vallabh Prabhu, many other teachers. I didn't go only to gain knowledge. I also went to see the good behavior of those devotees, Vaishnava Sadachara of those devotees, to learn. Although they are much younger, but they are very wonderful high-class Vaishnavas. So I had gone for one of the batches for 2 years. So it was a very enlivening experience there. So what you see Govardhan Eco Village today, it's like fully available to serve the visitors. That didn't come overnight. Like we say, Rome was not built in a day. It came little by little, inch by inch, like a sculptor carefully carving a murti out of stone block or marble block. So Gaurang Prabhu has invested enormous amount of time, energy, attention, and getting so one of his talents is to go across the globe and identify the best people for the job. And then he will take their phone number in his small button mobile which he has. He will take their phone number and their email, and then he will keep in touch with them and call them to GV, make them meet Maharaj, give them a good experience, and then connect them to the service. So once he was telling me, the only thing in this world you have to do is connect the right people for the right service, and then you can relax. Then they will do the work for you. So he is very smart in doing that. And he has got a very good team of junior devotees who can, you tell them within an hour they can make a website for you. They can make a website and put things in that highly talented IISc and IIT devotee team he has. So one of the things I appreciate in Gauranga Prabhu is not only he has preached and made a lot of devotees, he has identified the talented, we can say, think tank also on one hand, and the other hand, a pool of resourceful devotees, industrious and very hardworking and intelligent devotees also. So he can, anything comes up for him, he has to just call up a particular devotee and give him. So this is his Gauranga Prabhu's phase of life in Govardhaneko village. Now Govardhaneko village has come to a kind of balance now. All the vital things are done now. Now recently one of the Pune brahmacharis, very very senior devotee called his Sri Guru Charan Prabhu, got married to Haripriya Radha Mataji, who is actually a very very active, Haripriya Radha Mataji is active member in GV. Now when he got married, now Gauranga Prabhu has appointed him, giving him a very main role in Govardhaneko village for playing. Now the further development will happen. But I really appreciate Gauranga Prabhu for his tireless efforts, putting his sweat and toil in giving shape to Maharaja's vision in Govardhaneko village, and developing the farm community now. Every bit of it. Maharaj would spend hours and hours explaining his vision, and Gauranga Prabhu would put it all, he would get it recorded, put bullet points, and then call the devotees, explain to them. No matter how difficult it is, it may be a Herculean task and they have to do it. Maharaj has told they have to do it. So they would do it. So thank you very much, Gauranga Prabhu, for your wonderful example. Therefore, when you hear him speak, he has so much depth and so much sweetness in his speech, which arises from the realization which he gained in serving Maharaj very faithfully. Is Gauranga Prabhu okay?
Hare Krishna. You have taken introductions to another level. Thank you very much, Radheshyam Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Jai Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari. Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Jai Girivaradhari Jai Girivaradhari. Jai Yasoda Nandana Jai Braja Jana Ranjana Jai Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Banachari Jai Kunja Bihari. Jaya Yamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Kunja Bihari. जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी जय राधा माधव जय कुंज बिहारी जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोदरक से श्रीमद डिवाइन ग्रेस श्रील अभय चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत गोस्वामी महाराज प्रभुपाद की इस्कॉन विबट संस्थापक आचार्य शील प्रभुपाद की जय विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोदरक से श्रीमद डिवाइन ग्रेस श्रील भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर प्रभुपाद की अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की नामाचार्य श्रील हरदास ठाकुर की प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद की श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की ब्रजभूमि श्री वृंदावन धाम की पुरुषोत्तम क्षेत्र श्री जगन्नाथपुरी धाम की नवद्वीप मायापुर धाम की गंगा माई यमुना माई की भक्ति देवी तुलसी महारानी की कलयुग पावन हरिनाम संकीर्तन की हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की श्रील प्रभुपाद ट्रांसलेशनल बुक डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन की निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories, all glories, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga.
నెక్స్ట్ మా ఇస్కాన్ డివోషన్ చేస్తారు. అయితే ఏమైందంటే దీన్ని సెలవుగా తీసుకుంటున్నారు అందరు. ఇప్పుడు శ్రీరామనవమి అనుకో అందరు కంపల్సరిగా ఏదో ఒకటి గల్లి గిల్లి అలా ఇవి పెడతారు కాబట్టి
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. ओम अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। नम ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिन् इति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 11, Text 30, chapter entitled Swayambhuva Manu advises Dhruva Maharaj. Tvam pratyagatmani tada भगवती अनंते आनंद मात्रे उपपन्न समस्त शक्तौ भक्तिं विधाय परमां शनकैः अविद्या ग्रंथिं बिभेत्स्यसि मम अहम इति प्ररूढ़म त्वं प्रत्यगात्मनि तदा भगवत्यनंत आनन्दमात्र उपपन्न समस्त शक्तौ भक्तिं विधाय परमां शनकैरविद्या
नहीं बनने इधर चालू है वो इधर से चालू है मैंने जानबूझ के बंद कर दो सीपीयू में कितना क्रोम को बंद कीजिए ठीक है इसको चालू कर सकते हो नहीं जरूरत तो नहीं सबको बंद कीजिए ठीक है कैमरे को बंद कर आनंदमात्र उपपन्न समस्त शक्तौ भक्तिर्विधाय परमां शनकैरविद्या गन्धिं विभेत्स्यसि मामिति प्ररुद्धम्
21st కి 2 టైం ఇస్తాడా అడుగుతున్నాం మనకి వాళ్ళకి అడుగుండు వాళ్ళు మోసం
आत्मनि तदा भगवत् आनंदमात्र उपपन्न समस्त शक्तो भक्ति विधाय परमं शनकैरविद्या
మరి అది ఏంది అని చెప్తే కనుక
आनंद मात्र उपपन्न समस्त शक्तो भक्ति परमं शनकैरविद्या
మొన్న గిరాకీ బేరం పట్టుకొచ్చాక 32 లక్షలకి
गन्धि विभेत्स्यसि मामिति प्ररुद्धम् Unto the super soul at the time Bhagavati unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead Anante is unlimited Ananda Matre the reservoir of all pleasure Upapanna possessed of Samasta all Shabda potencies Bhakti devotional service Vidhaya by rendering Parama Supreme Shanakai very soon Vidya of illusion Granthim the knot Ekshasi you will undo Mama I Aham
translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Sri Akesi. Thus, we begin your natural position and rendering service to the Supreme Lord, with all powerful reservoir of revelation, and lives in all living entities as a super soul. You will very soon forget the illusory understanding of I and Guru Maharaj was already a liberated person because at the age of 5 years he had seen the Supreme Personality. But even though liberated, he was at the time being afflicted by the illusion of Maya, thinking
of Uttama in the bodily concept of life. The whole material
world is working on the basis of I and mind. This is the root of attraction to the material world. What is attracted to the root of illusion conceptions of I and mind. You will have to remain in this material world. Different example or mastery positions. The grace of Lord Krishna, the sages, and Lord Buddha, reminded Guru Maharaj, we should not continue this material conception of life. Simply by devotional service to the Lord, this illusion will be eradicated without So, Srimad Bhagavatam describes Shiltam Jadrishtavat Mushtam Svardham Surya
Atyaya Vyayai Bahuvantaraya Kamatvat Krishivachapi Nishpalam. That whichever corner of this material world you go, whatever we have experienced currently, Shrutam Cha, having experienced in the present and in the past, that which has given us frustration, makes us aspire for a position, situation, circumstance, which will be free from those frustrations already experienced.
The Bhagavatam is saying, Shukam Cha Drishyavat Mushtam. The new situation which you will create for yourself will also have almost similar kinds of frustrations. Drishyavat Mushtam. Those doshas, those faults will be. What is that? Spardha, there will be competition, asuya, envy,
decay, vyayai, destruction, bahuvantaraya kamatvat. So many efforts one makes to change situation and circumstance to solve the problem. Krishivachapi nishphalam. Just like a farmer, when he experiences frustration in growing crops in one tract of land, if he starts searching for a new tract of land and starts farming there also he will find a different but similar kind of problems and issues. So therefore, the effort to solve problems by changing material circumstances is known as material knowledge. And spiritual knowledge is concerned with transforming the situation and the problem by raising the consciousness, elevating the consciousness. Just like if there are buildings all around the airport, when the flight is at the runway, the buildings appear gigantic and impressive. But when the flight takes off, and from 10,000 feet from above in the sky, those same buildings appear to be very insignificant. So therefore, we need material efforts and we need spiritual efforts. We should understand the boundaries of each of these efforts and try to collaborate and coexist. We need material efforts to make our material life relatively comfortable, to keep, as they say, body and soul together. And that is known as Yukta Vairagya. Anasaktasya Vishayan Yatharam Upayunjata Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe Yuktam Vairagyam Uchyate. And then, beyond that, in spite of all of one's efforts, just like in the last 2 years, we have experienced circumstances which were not expected, which is beyond human comprehension, which is beyond our expectation and planning. And these kind of adversities will keep falling upon our head repeatedly. When such situations happen, you need the solid foundation of spiritual knowledge to raise the consciousness so that your perspective changes. So therefore, life in this world has two dimensions. So there are materialists who speak about how to work, and they will teach you how to optimize or maximize the efficiency of your work. So they are those who are involved in giving the material education. Then there are the coaches, or those who are helping you tolerate the pains as you are working hard, and they will speak about work and life balance. So therefore, there is the corporate trainer who will help you increase your productivity and efficiency. There is a coach who will try to balance some aspects of your life along with your work. But all of the material knowledge and purview of that material knowledge is only till death. So it is only those who are spiritualists who take into account the journey beyond death. So the difference between materialists and spiritualists is the materialists' destination is only till death. Their calculation or the maximum they can put in their GPS is only till death. But the spiritualists, they understand that death is one of the junctions as part of a journey. And so their ability to plan the journey is much beyond that. And so the overall perspective has to be understood. And so Dhruv Maharaj is a classic example of someone who is extremely disturbed materially. And he was disturbed by the fact that he was not allowed to attain a certain position. But now he has been given knowledge which has helped him become the emperor of the world, and knowledge which will help him enter eternal life after death also. So that's the overall perspective. So the material knowledge only helps you deal with the problems, but spiritual knowledge gives you solutions to the problem and also helps you adjust your perspectives so that you can actually do the necessary changes. So when we speak about changing perspectives, as here Swayambhuva Manu is trying to change the perspective of Dhruva and helping him understand the overall vision. A beautiful rose appears beautiful as long as it is at the right distance and magnification, normal vision perceives the rose as beautiful. If the same rose is seen through very high power magnification lens, the rose will appear very ugly, because even all those details which should not be seen are being seen. And then sometimes something which appears very ugly to normal vision, if you see with a magnification lens which takes that vision far behind, like you have binoculars and you look from the other side, the distance goes further. So therefore, spiritual knowledge is nothing. Spiritual knowledge is basically giving us the entire range of lenses. What is Bhagavad Gita? What is Srimad Bhagavatam? It is laying in front of us the whole range of lenses. And that is the book Bhagavatam. And service to the person Bhagavatam, pleasing the person Bhagavatam, and being blessed by the person Bhagavatam gives us the discrimination to pick up the right lens at the moment when you need it the most, without a moment's notice. That ability may appear to be mystic, but mystic is the word given for inability to understand the process. So therefore the process is relentless, honest, consistent service at the lotus feet of the Vaishnavas gives the ability to pick the lenses at the moment you want it, because you have a whole range of lenses. And when incidents happen and situations happen, you do not have time to call up somebody to consult which lens to pick. It's just a moment. So therefore, nashta prayeshu abhadreshu nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. So that Bhagavata refers to both book Bhagavata and the person Bhagavatam. So what Hinduism needs right now is clear-cut explanation of what is embedded in our philosophy and in our books. To understand how things are the way they are. And that is one of the greatest contributions of His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, that he took all of these literatures, and the Vedic literatures are extremely complex. But Prabhupada took those literatures and put it in such clear-cut terms by explaining the Bhagavad Gita in terms of Ishvara, Jiva, Prakriti, Kala, Karma, and the different dimensions of how the soul is trapped within this material world, and translating life in the form of the journey of the soul, and then allowing each of us to choose our destinations. And therefore, Srila Prabhupada could do that because in 1922 he had a conversation with his Guru Maharaj at 1 Ulta Danga Junction Road. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He told him in the first meeting, within the first few minutes, you are an intelligent young man, you must preach in the English language in the West. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's message. And immediately Prabhupada was inspired. That conversation happened in 1922. ISKCON was established in 1966. So there were more than 40 years of struggle before the mission could be established in the form of an institution. But the instructions, Srila Prabhupada said, the instructions of our spiritual teachers may be postponed in implementation, but not forgotten. And therefore, Prabhupada, his house in Sitakant Banerjee Lane was the place where on the first floor he had given it to Gaudiya Math devotees, and they were having classes. And we had Dol Govinda Shastri, who was a god brother of Srila Prabhupada and disciple of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who was giving regular classes on Harinamamrita Vyakaran. So Srila Prabhupada sometimes would do japa on the staircase between the ground floor and the first floor from outside, the old style houses. And he was sitting and doing japa. Dol Govinda Shastri came and sat right next to Srila Prabhupada. That time Srila Prabhupada was a businessman, Grihastha. His name was Abhay Charan De. So as Prabhupada was sitting and doing japa, Dol Govinda Shastri came and sat next to him and said, I just gave lecture on one shloka. Prithvi te ache joto nagoradi gram sarvatra prachar hoibe moranam. In every town and village, the holy name will spread. I gave that lecture, but I don't know how it will happen. Srila Prabhupada, who was sitting there, got up, took 2 steps down, turned to Dol Govinda Shastri, and with great conviction he said, if Lord Chaitanya has made that prediction, that will happen one day. Then Prabhupada took 2 steps down further, turned around and spoke to Dol Govinda Shastri. One day, a fool who is surrendered at the lotus feet of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur will make it happen. And Srila Prabhupada took 2 steps down further. And in the meantime, Dol Govinda Shastri, being Saraswati Thakur's disciple, started thinking, will that be me? Prabhupada turned around and looked at Dol Govinda Shastri and said, it will not be you. Dol Govinda Shastri did not speak it. He just thought about it. But Prabhupada immediately said that. And then Dol Govinda Shastri started thinking, what does Abhay Babu think? Is he going to do it? How can he do it? He is only a businessman. The only thing he is thinking all the time is money, money, money. So he could not imagine that in their midst was someone who could potentially make this happen. So the opportunity is there for everybody. The opportunity for empowerment is there. But that opportunity converts into ability when we take the appropriate actions through our choices. Therefore, austerity is to say no to sense gratification grudgingly. Higher taste is to say no to sense gratification happily. So therefore, the choice is ours. How we wish to progress in Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada tried in India. He tried in India. Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada was trying in India from 1947 onwards. 47 to 65, 18 years he tried to preach. The Hindus were busy organizing weddings for their children. The favorite pastime. It is the most unifying festival. Prabhupada gave a book to one gentleman in Jhansi. one of his friends. It was called Easy Journey to Other Planets. As soon as he gave the book, that gentleman turned to Prabhupada and said, "What will I get by reading this book?" Prabhupada said, "By reading this book, you will be able to go to the spiritual world, Golok Vrindavan." That man said, "After going to Golok, can I come back to Jhansi?" Prabhupada said, "No, that is not possible." Then he said, "I don't want this book." So this was the challenging situation Prabhupada was facing. He preached continuously, relentlessly for 18 years. Not one person he could make disciple, apart from one Acharya Prabhakar, who was like a kind of semi-disciple. So our founder Acharya struggled in that scenario. And what was the cause of that struggle? Lack of cooperation. Lack of cooperation and people having their own conceptions, and rather than hearing, they were more interested in giving advice. Right? So people have their own conceptions. I was trying to give prasadam to some college youth, and that guy started protesting. No, hum nahi chhuega isko. I will not take it. I said, "Arey, what is the problem? You are the first guy in history refusing prasad. What is your problem? Why you are not taking prasad?" He said, "If I take this, my hairstyle will become like yours. So I don't want." So you have your own conception and you are imposing that conception. So it was not a small period. It was a very long period. Prabhupada was struggling and trying, and nothing happened. But therefore, enthusiasm, or as Churchill said, success is the ability to go from failure to failure without loss of enthusiasm. And Prabhupada went to America, and there he met a group of young, hippies who were not at all trained in Sanskrit, who were not trained in any basics also, but they had one good qualification. They were willing to follow. So that willingness to follow is a bigger qualification and gives great ability to do things than so many other qualifications. So Prabhupada said we should have a world traveling Sankirtan party. So Hamsadutta Prabhu, he really was eager. So he went and got one old bus which was donated to him by one hippie. It was such a dilapidated, horrible, run-down bus. There was no paint on it. There were no glasses also on the window. There were no seats inside the bus except the driver's seat. And even the front part in front of the driver did not have any glass. Prabhupada was brought there. First question Prabhupada said, "Where will I sit?" So they ran inside, got a chair, kept there. Prabhupada said, "When the bus moves, the chair will also move." So Brahmanand Prabhu came and sat there and held that chair with his hands and said, "Now it will not move." Then Hamsadutta Prabhu sat in the driver's seat, switched on the ignition, smoke started coming out. Prabhupada commented, "Looks like an Indian bus." The devotees thought Prabhupada is complimenting and glorifying their efforts. 4 years later, when Hamsadutta Prabhu came to India, he realized what was the meaning of that comment. But they were willing to follow. And that willingness to follow needs to be monitored on a regular basis. So Dhruv Maharaj is being again reminded by Swayambhuva Manu, please follow. So he was following, and then he became angry, and then he, went off on a tangent. Again, he needs to be brought back. So Giriraj Maharaj's, family was very disturbed that he's started chanting and all this. So they brought a psychiatrist. That psychiatrist took Giriraj Maharaj to a room and started asking, what is your problem in life? He said, Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadhi. He said, she said, do you have issues with your parents? He said, Pitamahasya Jagata, Mata Dhata Pitama. For every question the psychiatrist was asking, he was answering with Bhagavad Gita shlok. That psychiatrist came out in half an hour, came to the parents and said, if I spend half an hour more with your son, I will become Hare Krishna. Your son is permanently infected. So Giriraj Maharaj, mentioned to Prabhupada, and Prabhupada was very happy. He said, even psychiatrist has confirmed that our Giriraj is permanently infected. So, with a few devotees who were only in the range of 18 to 23 years of age, who were college dropouts, who had no background of any Hindu samskaras, Srila Prabhupada created the greatest magic in history of Sanatan Dharma, of bringing in people from West, from various backgrounds, and getting them to practice Krishna consciousness and spread Krishna consciousness. Thus indicating that if a good knowledge is available any part of the world, it should be used and utilized for the benefit of society, anywhere and everywhere. Ore mudha loka shuna chaitanya mangal, chaitanya mahima jate, janibe sakal. So Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, as he is in Radha Govinda temple writing the Chaitanya Charitamrita, he is clarifying under what circumstances I have written the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Do not think that I have written the Chaitanya Charitamrita to demonstrate my intellectual ability. I have simply done that on the instruction and order of the Vaishnavas. I have simply been a sincere follower. So therefore, material success comes by display of competence and skill. Spiritual success comes by display of sincerity and submission. So therefore, he says, I first of all have the highest respect for my predecessor, Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur, who has written which book? Chaitanya Mangal. Krishna Lila Bhagavate Kohe Veda Vyas Chaitanya Lila Vyasa Vrindavan Das. So whatever was the position of Vyasdev in Krishna Lila, I consider Vrindavan Das to have that position in Gaur Lila. Vrindavan Das Koila Chaitanya Mangal Jahara Shravana Nashe Sarva Amangal. Whoever hears that Chaitanya Mangal, all of their inauspiciousness will be destroyed. Chaitanya Nitaire Jate Janiye Mahima Jate Jani Krishna Bhakti Siddhantera Shima. By hearing Chaitanya Mangal, one will actually experience knowledge of the devotion of Gaur and Nitai and one will experience the highest Siddhanta with respect to Krishna Bhakti. Krishna Tattva Bhakti Tattva Prema Tattva Sar Bhava Tattva Rasa Tattva Lila Tattva Ar. Any spiritual literature comprises of these 6 things. Just like when you eat khichdi, you know what are its constituent ingredients. So whenever you are hearing a spiritual discourse, the spiritual discourse through that sound vibration, it appears to be a perfectly cooked, delicious food item. But within that, if you dissect the ingredients, that sound vibration consists of Krishna Tattva, Bhakti Tattva, Prema Tattva, Bhava Tattva, Rasa Tattva, Lila Tattva. All of these put together in perfect proportions comprise of that transcendental sound vibration which enters into the heart. Pravishta karnarandhrena swanam bhava saroruham dhunoti shamalam Krishna salilasya yathasharat. Enters into the heart and makes that consciousness within our heart bloom. And therefore, what is the effect of that purification? The next verse describes that. Dhunoti shamalam Krishna salilasya yathasharat. When you are purified, Prabhupada said, purity is the... So the question arises, how do we know we are purified? How do we know we are purified? How can I be convinced I am purified? Because every practicing devotee, after a few years of chanting, starts thinking I am purified. Just because we have spent some time, we have to be purified. Otherwise, what am I doing? Time pass or what? But there are symptoms of that purification. Dhautatma Purusha Krishna Pada Moolam Namunchati Mukta Sarva Pariklesha Panthahasva Sharanam Yatha. The classic symptom of a purified soul is Dhautatma Purusha Krishna Pada Moolam Namunchati. He will not give up his service. He will not be jumping like a monkey. That is the difference between a jnani and a bhakta. Krishna pada moolam namunchati. He considers that order which has been given to him as his greatest asset, dhan. Paya jara agya dhan brajera vaishnavagan tara madhye mukhya horidas chaitanya bilas sindhu kalloler ekabindu taha kana kohe Krishna das. So therefore, paya jara agya dhan. Kaviraj Goswami is saying that agya which I received from the Vaishnavas is my real dhan. Agya dhan. But when we receive agya, we think it is agya gan. And we are wondering, when will the next agya come? So we are a group of highly anxiety-filled sevaks, afraid of the master. And therefore, master is also in anxiety, surrounded by such anxiety-filled sevaks. So therefore, the process of devotional service, it grows by resisting the temptation to give up. When the mind says, you can't take it anymore, give up. That is the moment we have to crush the mind. with our feet and say, no, I will continue. And the power to continue will come by the grace of the order itself. Bhagavate jat bhakti siddhanter sar likhiya chin iha jani kariya uddhar. He says, all the bhakti siddhanta is there in this Chaitanya Bhagavat. Likhiya chin iha jani kariya uddhar. Just by reading it, everything will become clear. Chaitanya Mangala Shune Jadi Pashandi Jaban Seha Mahavaishnava Hoeta Takshan. By hearing this, even the Pashandi Javan will become Mahavaishnava. And therefore Ajamil says, Kvachaham kitava papa Brahmagna nirapatrapa Kvacha Narayanatyeti Bhagavan Nama Mangalam. My dear Lord, you have descended in the form of the holy name and you have not resisted to come in contact with a sinful person like me. And therefore Ajamil pastime represents how at the time of initiation the name is changed to a spiritual name so that one can remember that name at all times. So Hamsadutta Prabhu in his memories, he speaks that before initiation his name was German. It was called Hans Carey. It was a German name. And people used to ridicule that name in America. Because when you are from one part of the world and you go to another part, and people can't relate with that name, so there is always some kind of, social comments made. Like now we are in Telangana, Andhra, Tamil Nadu, we have sometimes long names. I also have a very long name. Alambalam, Sitaraman, Krishna, Yar, Anand. So passport officer thinks 3 passports are being made. Kanakapati Apalachalam Sankaralingam Sakapati Raju. One name. Impressive name. And if you go to China, who? Name is over. So culturally, these are common things in this world. But, he had this young, innocent desire, I should have a different name. So Prabhupada gave him the name Hamsadutta Adhikari. So he asked Prabhupada, what is the meaning of my name? Prabhupada said, your old name, Hans, you add Duta. It becomes Hans Duta. Your second name was Carey, add Adhi before. Adhi Carey. So he said, after initiation also it didn't change. So he asked Prabhupada, okay, what is the meaning? Prabhupada said, read the Bhagavatam. You'll get the meaning. He studied, he didn't find. Then Prabhupada was giving initiation another place and he was sitting and he was saying, Brahmananda means this, Kirtananda means this. So Hamsadutta immediately said, Prabhupada, who is Hamsadutta? Prabhupada said, you. And he said, remember, the more important part of the name is Das. And Das basically is a very simple 3-letter word, but extremely difficult, right, to actually follow. So Kaviraj Goswami is demonstrating his Das Bhav. Manushe rachite nare aiche grantha dhanya Vrindavan Das Mukhe Bhakta Sri Chaitanya. So actually, the speaker of Chaitanya Bhagavat is Mahaprabhu, but he has just spoken through Vrindavan Das Thakur. Ata eva bhaja loke Chaitanya Nityananda Khandibe samsara dukha Pabe Premananda. Therefore, I inspire all the devotees, everyone in this world, to chant the names of Gaur Nitai and attain real prema. So naturally, the intrigue increases in the mind that if Vrindavan Das Thakur's literature was perfect, why did you write? That you have still not clarified. You are only glorifying the previous author's work. You are glorifying Chaitanya Bhagavat. You are glorifying Vrindavan Das Thakur. It is increasing the confusion. So he says, Chaitanya Chandrera Lila Ananta Apar Bornite Bornite Grantha Hoila Bistar. So as Vrindavan Das Thakur was writing Mahaprabhu's Leela, he was going deeper and deeper in ecstasy. And the volume of that literature was growing more and more. And he had only reached till Lord Chaitanya at the age of 24. Mahaprabhu lived till 48. And he was just writing more and more about Navdeep Leela. And then as he would discuss Leelas of Lord Chaitanya with Nityananda, he would suddenly take a detour and start glorifying Lord Nityananda. Nityananda Leela Varnana Huila Avesh Chaitanya Rashesha Leela Chaitanya Rashesha Leela Rahila Avashesh. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes after sannyas still remained. So therefore Mahaprabhu departed. Mahaprabhu took sannyas on January the 14th, 1510, entered Vrindavan on Kartik Purnima 1515, settled in Vrindavan in Puri in 1516, and stayed in Puri till 1534, 18 years. And then Vrindavan Das Thakur wrote Chaitanya Bhagavat sometime in the 1550s. And then Kaviraj Goswami is currently, after Radha Govinda DT was installed in 1590, then in that period between 1590 till Chaitanya Charitamrita was written finally on May the 10th, 1615. So in that period, he is in his 80s and 90s and very old. So therefore, he is mentioning that the remaining pastimes of Lord Chaitanya had not yet been covered. Saisabalilara shunite bibaran Vrindavan basi bhakter utkantitaman. So all the Vaishnavas in Vrindavan, they had a great desire to hear Lord Chaitanya's remaining pastimes. Because Mahaprabhu departed, but then Rup and Sanatan had also entered Vrindavan by 1516 and they started writing literatures. Then Srila Jiva Goswami came. Then Raghunath Das Goswami came after Mahaprabhu's disappearance to commit suicide, jumping from Govardhan. And then they convinced him, you speak about Mahaprabhu's pastime. And when Raghunath Das Goswami spoke about Mahaprabhu's pastimes in Puri, in the audience was Kaviraj Goswami. Chaitanya Lila Ratnasar Swarupera Bhandar Teho Thuela Raghuna Tera Kanthe Taha Kichu Je Shunilu Taha Iha Bistarilu Bhakta Gana Dilu Ei Bhete. So I just heard from Das Goswami sitting on the banks of Radha Kund, and I am simply trying to repeat it as a gift to the Vaishnava community, Kaviraj Goswami is saying. And therefore, Vrindavan was filled with Vaishnavas, because in the period between 1541, when Jiva Goswami, the last of the Goswamis, appeared in Vrindavan, till 1557, when Sanatan Goswami departed, those were the only 16 years where all the 6 Goswamis were together in Vrindavan. 1541 to 1557. Because by the time Jiva Goswami came after studying the Vyakaran and everything from Kashi, it was delayed. So there are debates about the exact dates, but all the Goswamis did not appear together. So first to appear were Rupa and Sanatan in Vrindavan, 1516, but Raghunath Das Goswami came only after Mahaprabhu's disappearance, 1535. And Gopal Bhatta Goswami came just before that. Raghunath Bhatta Goswami also came in that period in the 1530s, just after his father's Kashi Mishra, Tapan Mishra's disappearance, mother's disappearance. So like that. So then this is that period where Mahaprabhu specifically sent Rupa and Sanatan, because Rupa and Sanatan had been previously the Prime Minister and Finance Minister. They knew what is politics. They knew how to deal with politicians. They had dealt with the Muslim Nawab Hussain Shah. So they knew how to deal with Akbar, who became emperor in 1555. And as I said, Raghunath Bhatta Goswami was the guru to Man Singh and Todarmal, who was in a political collaboration with Akbar. And therefore Jiva Goswami inspired Raghunath Bhatta Goswami to inform and instruct Man Singh and Todarmal to put pressure on Akbar that we want to develop Vrindavan. And so those stones which were going for Fatehpur Sikri and Agra for palaces of the emperor, the same stone and the same karigars, after finishing those works, would come to Vrindavan. So Jiva Goswami managed to get the entire Vrindavan built with the royal stone. And therefore the Goswamis did not make too many donors. They had only one donor, Akbar. One major donor. And therefore Man Singh promised to Jiva Goswami when he went for a battle in 1573 that when I come back successful, I will start construction of a temple. In 1575, the Govinda Dev temple construction began. And then in 1590, that Govinda Dev temple was built and commissioned at the cost of 500 crores compared to today at that time. So it was an architectural masterpiece. And therefore, we should understand that the sandstone temples which we see in Vrindavan built by the Goswamis, that sandstone was not accessible even to the wealthiest capitalist at that time. So what they accomplished was extraordinary. They got a person like Akbar who did not believe in deity worship, who did not have faith in deity worship, to compromise on his fanaticism and give land grant. The first land farman was granted in the name of Madan Mohan and Govinda Dev in 1564. And Vrindavan became like a revenue entity for the first time. And therefore Jiva Goswami, while designing the Govinda Dev temple, he recognized the fact that Akbar has compromised on his religious sentiments. So I should also compromise. So instead of making lot of figures in the outskirts of the design of a temple, because typical temples have lots of figures, he kept it very plain. So if you see Govinda Dev temple, it is only plain cuts. That's it. Plain stone from outside. So because Jiva Goswami thought, Akbar has compromised, I should also compromise. When two people decide to compromise, then dialogue is established. If both people are stubborn on their stance, it is called a monologue. So because Akbar compromised, Jiva Goswami also compromised. Therefore, Govinda Dev temple is called a dialogue in stone. And that is that Govinda Dev temple which is being described in Chaitanya Charitamrita 8th chapter, where Kaviraj Goswami was sitting and writing the Chaitanya Charitamrita, the venue of the Chaitanya Charitamrita being written. Vrindavane kalpadrume suvarna sadan Mahayoga Pita taha ratna simhasan. And in that beautiful yoga pit, there was a beautiful golden jewel bedecked throne on which were sitting Tate Bosiya Sada Brajendra Nandan Sri Govinda Deva Nama Sakshat Madan. Govinda Dev were the deities who were sitting there. And the chief patron for the worship for Govinda Dev temple was Mansingh. And therefore, Raja Seva hoye taha bichitra prakar Divya samagri divya ratna alankar. And so there was like chappan bhog, and there was all kinds of most auspicious precious jewels being used in the service of their lordships. And how many sevaks were there? How many pujaris were there? Sahasra sevaka seva kore anukshan Sahasra vadane seva najaya varnan. With thousands and thousands of mouths, it was impossible to describe the glories of the worship and the quality of worship being done. So these are manjaris. The 6 Goswamis are manjaris from the spiritual world. The manjaris from the spiritual world have established the deities which were curated by Krishna's grandson, Vajranabh, in Krishna's own Dham, Vrindavan. And so the standard of worship, the royal opulence and everything was at a peak. How could you imagine such a place being ever affected, impacted, and losing its power? But Krishna wants to demonstrate that the time factor can affect anyone and everyone. I create a level playing field in this world. I do not even exclude my own dham from the effect of Kala externally. And therefore, always focus on bhakti in the heart. The foundation for any temple is the devotion, shraddha, faith in the heart of the devotee. Because the structures can be destroyed. But if the structures are destroyed but the shraddha is intact, the worship will again restart. If the structures are intact but shraddha is destroyed, the worship will collapse. So therefore there have been periods where for many years no worship was done, but because shraddha was there, again it started. And therefore when Akbar departed, after Akbar his son Jahangir, then his son Shah Jahan had eldest son Dara Shikoh, who was not so favorable towards the then Rajput king Jai Singh. So Jai Singh did not like Dara Shikoh. And the destruction of Vrindavan was created by a relationship problem. So there was a political miscalculation on the side of the Rajput king, the protectors and the patrons of Braj. Aurangzeb could see that Jai Singh does not like my elder brother Dara Shikoh. I should use this opportunity. So Aurangzeb enlisted the support of Jai Singh, and with the help of Jai Singh's support, killed his own brother. It was Jai Singh who killed Dara Shikoh and put Aurangzeb on throne. The patrons of Vrindavan put the future destroyer of Vrindavan on the throne. And then in 1670, when Shivaji Maharaj escaped, Aurangzeb thought Jai Singh and his son Ram Singh are responsible. So in anger, he attacked and destroyed temple at Kashi, he attacked the Mathura temple, he attacked the Govinda Dev temple and other temples. And so the deities were brought from Vrindavan to Radhakund to Kamyavan, and then gradually, ultimately, they came on the outskirts in Amera. So by then, Jai Singh's son Ram Singh's son Jai Singh too, he became a disciple of Baladev Vidyabhushan and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He would spend a lot of time in Gokulanand temple. Right next to Gokulanand temple, there was a beautiful palace he created called Jai Singh Ghera. And in Jai Singh Ghera, Jai Singh II got a dream. Govinda Dev appeared in his dream and said, I used to live in a palace, Govinda Dev temple. I have been thrown out of my palace. I am roaming in the streets, and you are sitting in my dham in a palace. Is this fair? So Jai Singh Maharaj got up with a start, and he immediately commissioned architects to create an entire city. And the final master plan of the city of Jaipur was commissioned in Jai Singh Ghera. And then in 1713, the deities of Govinda Dev entered into what today we call as Jaipur. And after the deities were installed, the construction of the entire city began. The whole city has been built as an offering to Govinda Dev. So that is what is being described here. But that Govinda Dev was, at the time of Kaviraj Goswami writing, the center of the most opulent worship. Crores of rupees were being spent every month in the worship. Dresses made of diamonds were being offered. So therefore, never take the prosperity of a particular Vaishnava community for granted. It only takes one miscalculation and a twist in time factor to ruin everything. Today you go to Govinda Dev temple surrounded by monkeys, screeching monkeys. You cannot imagine. The same is being described here. Sahasra sevaka seva kore anukshan, sahasra vadane seva nayaya varnan. Millions of servants were serving Govinda Dev temple. You don't see anybody there. In Vrindavan Govinda Dev temple. Jaipur Govinda Dev temple doing great. 5,000 people for Mangal Aarti at 4:30 in the morning. So many people during COVID lockdown were so frustrated because they have been attending for last 40 years Mangal Aarti every day. And they said, unfortunately, our vrata was broken because of the lockdown. So therefore, now Kaviraj Goswami is referring that in that Govinda temple, there was a head priest, the Mahant, who's there in the records. If you go into the historical records, that person's name is there. His name is Haridas. Sevara Adhyaksha Sri Pandita Haridas Tarayasha Guna Sarva Jagate Prakash. So that Mahanta was special not because he had a political position as the head of that temple. He was the head of the temple because of his devotional qualities. So therefore, business influence comes by the amount of money you carry. Political influence comes by the amount of political power and number of people who are following you. Spiritual influence comes by the amount of devotional qualities you carry. So therefore, we should not try to insert or exchange erroneously one influence over another. So the focus in a spiritual society of spiritual leaders to create spiritual influence should only be to expand and increase our spiritual qualities. That is the essence. Everything else is a detail which will automatically follow, rolling at the feet. Sushila Sahishnu Shanta Vadanya Gambhir Madhura Bachana Madhur Cheshta Mahadhir सबार सम्मान करता करेन सबार हित कौटिल्य मात्सर्य हिंसा न जाने तार चित सुशीला well behaved, Sahishnu, tolerant, Shanta, very quiet, Vadanya, compassionate, Gambhir, very grave, Madhura Vachan, very sweet in his speech, Madhura Cheshta, excellent in his dealings, Mahadhir, very controlled, Sabara Samman Karta, always willing to give respect to others. Koren Sabarhit, always willing to do good for others. Kautilya, Matsarya, Himsa, na jane tarachit. No fault finding tendency, no envy, no violence. And as Chaitanya Charitamrita describes, that killing of cow and criticizing Vaishnava, both are on the same platform. Both are considered violence. And so he says, Vaishnavera gunagrahina dekhai dosh, kai mane vakya kore Vaishnava santosh. In the Vaishnava Sangha, rather than seeing the faults, we should see the good qualities and try to satisfy the devotees. And so he says, Kaviraj Goswami says, Haridas Pandit was extremely attached to Gaur Nitai and their pastimes. And he would constantly be hearing Vrindavan Das Thakur's Chaitanya Mangal. Nirantara shunite ho Chaitanya Mangal, Tahar Prasade shune Vaishnava Sakal. He would organize Gaur Leela classes, and therefore by his grace we would be hearing Kathay Sabha Ujjvala Kore Jena Purna Chandra Nija Gunamrita Badhaye Vaishnava Ananda. And the presence of a great Vaishnava like Haridas Pandit increased our satisfaction and joy. So the Vaishnava gets satisfaction by two things: by hearing the Bhagavatam and by observing the Bhagavata's Vaishnava qualities. So both the book Bhagavatam and the Vaishnava Bhagavata's Guna, the Guna Leela of Bhagavan in book Bhagavatam and the observable Gunas of the Vaishnavas, both are a cause of satisfaction for the Vaishnava. And so now he says, Teho ati kripa kori agya koila more gaurangera sheshalila varnibar tore. Out of great mercy, ati kripa koila agya koila. It is his mercy that he gave me that order. So to receive, we have to become qualified to receive the order of the Vaishnavas. The instruction and the order on to become the carrier of the hopes of the Vaishnavas is a great privilege which needs to be worked upon. One has to become qualified for that. Teho ati kripa koila agya koila more. Gaurangir Sheshalila Varni Bharatare. And then he gave instruction, you describe the remaining pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then, not only him, Arajat Brindavane Baise Bhaktagana Sheshalilar Shunile Sabara Hoilamana. All of those Vaishnavas also had a desire. They also said. So the devotees in Vrindavan, led by the leader amongst them, Haridas Pandit, told me, please write about Mahaprabhu's remaining pastimes. So now, Kaviraj Goswami is revealing that when we are instructed by the devotees, how should we respond? When that instruction appears to be way beyond my capacity to execute. How should I respond? More agya korila saba koruna koria ta sabare bole likhi nirlajja hoya. So he says, more agya korile. More agya korila sabe koruna koria. So out of great compassion and mercy, he gave this instruction. More agya korila sabe koruna koria. It was his karuna. Ta sabare bole likhi. Because all of them together instructed me, nirlajja hoya. So I became shameless. What does it mean? The feeling of lajja happens because of ego. Social shame. What will people think? What will be the people's response? Are Vrindavan Das Thakur has performed service at this level and created a product which is here. Chaitanya Mangal. If I do something, I should not become a object of ridicule. What is this? अरे वो क्या लिखे थे, आप क्या लिखे हो? Where is the comparison? He says, no. Don't compare with any other Vaishnava. Service is a very, very confidential, intimate, private affair between the soul and Krishna. Because Krishna is unlimited, service is unlimited. No matter how many unlimited Vaishnavas have performed unlimitedly super excellent service in the past, still you have your opportunity. Never think that अब मेरे लिए क्या बचा, सब तो कर ही दिया. No. Krishna is unlimited, opportunities are unlimited, and therefore that is the parampara. The glory of the parampara is they continue awarding more and more service, and not that they have already done. Prabhupada said, when after Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, Krishna did not tell Arjuna, okay Arjuna, I will fight. You sleep in the back of the chariot and smoke ganja. I will fight. No, you have to work. You have to fight. So Prabhupada was speaking to a group of hippies. Right? Udyame nahi siddhyanti karyani manoratha nahi suptasya singhasya pravishanti mukhe mriga. Even the king of the jungle, lion, has to work. So Prabhupada was giving a talk, and Prabhupada said in that lecture, and if the lion simply sleeps with his mouth open, thinking that the deer will enter inside, the deer will come, pass urine and go. So you have to work. So no matter, you can't say, Are so many devotees in the past have done so much seva, Are, who am I? I am only qualified to eat prasad. And I will pray for everybody. No, he is saying, Nirlajja hoya. I became shameless. That means I decided, let me depend on the Lord and try. Vaishnavera agya paya chintita antare madana gopala gela paya agya magibare. So now he is sitting in Govindadev temple, but the worshipable deity of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is Madan Mohan. Vaishnavera agya paya, receiving the Vaishnava's order, chintita antare, I became chintit. So when we hear chintit, we think, Are, wo bhi chintit ho gaye. He was also in anxiety. We become filled with anxiety on why was I given the seva. He was in anxiety because how can I do that seva? So the anxiety is of different type. When we are chanting, we are praying, please engage me in your service. That is the meaning of the mantra. But inside mind is saying, please engage him. in your service. He is more qualified. So Vaishnavera आज्ञा पाया चिंतित अंतरे मदन गोपाल गेला आज्ञा मागी बारे. And I go to the temple of Madan Gopal. Kaviraj Goswami says. So to get the actual formal agya instruction. And at there was a pujari who was offering the puja and everything. And so he says that Prabhura charane jadi agya magila Prabhu kantha hoite mala khosiya podiya. As he was praying in front of Madan Mohan, the garland of Madan Mohan slipped and fell. And as soon as that slipped and fell, Sab Vaishnava Gana Hari Dhvani Dila Gosai Dasa Ani Mala Mora Gole Dila. So that Gosai Das was Pujari, brought that mala and offered it to Kaviraj Goswami. And all the devotees, they said, Hari Hari! Agya mala paya amar hoila ananda tahai karimu ei granthera arambha. Taking that garland as the instruction, Agya mala paya amar hoila ananda. That mala was Agya, indication of instruction. And therefore, Tahai karimo ei granthir arambha. The fuel for my literary work was not my literary skill, but it was the instruction of the Vaishnavas and the indication of Madan Mohan. Only that fuel will keep this service running for the long time. If a devotee depends on his past karmic skills, then very soon he will run out of fuel and sparking will begin. And so he says, Ei grantha lekhaye more madana mohana amara lekhana jena shukhera pathana. This grantha, this Chaitanya Charitamrita I have been made to write that. Ei grantha lekhaye more, मुझसे लिखवाया है मदन मोहन. मदन मोहन जी ने लिखवाया है. Ei grantha lekhaye more madana mohana amara likhana yena shukera pathan. It is just like a parrot. I am simply speaking like that. Sei likhi madana Gopal ye lekhaye Kasthera putaliyena kuhake nachai. And Madan Mohan has simply made me dance like a puppet. That's it. And therefore Kaviraj Goswami acknowledges the power of Madan Mohan behind his service. Kuladhi devata more Madana Mohan jar sevak Raghunath Rupa Sanatan. My Kula Devata is Madan Mohan, who have been served by Jara Sevaka Raghunath, Rupa and Sanatan. And so he says, Vrindavana Dasir Pada Padma Kuri Dhyan Tara Agya Laya Lekhi Jahate Kalyan. Taking the blessings of Vrindavan Das Thakur, I am now attempting to write the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Chaitanya Lilate Vyasa Vrindavana Dasa Tar Kripa Bina Anye Na Hoye Prakasha. Whatever I am able to write, whatever I am able to produce, whatever I am able to accomplish is simply the grace of my predecessor Acharya Vrindavan Das Thakur. So a devotee should always acknowledge, contemplate and accept that whatever I am able to do today at the present is because of the cumulative devotional efforts, the prayers and the blessings of millions of Vaishnavas in the past who have experienced so much of difficulty, challenges, tolerated all of that and passed the baton on to carry on the message of this parampara. I had an extremely emotional moment when I visited Prabhupada's room this morning. That ISKCON Hyderabad, I never realized is such a historical place where apart from Vrindavan, Mayapur and Bombay, probably this is the only other place where there is a Prabhupada's room. And Prabhupada, yeah, and Radheshyam Prabhu is offering that, therefore we should have Bhaktivedanta Research Center, Hyderabad. So the first service Bhaktivedanta Research Center is offering to ISKCON Hyderabad is, we will support with a team which will bring about the entire history of Prabhupada's visit to Hyderabad and putting together all the things together, just like in Kolkata they have created. So we will provide that support just like we have done for Ulta Danga Junction. Ulta Danga Junction Road, we have put together a team, and so your local team and our team can co-produce an entire book related to that. But under what, I mean, some of the biggest heavyweights have visited here. I see Tamal Krishna Maharaj, I see Panchadravida Swami, I see Mahamsa Swami. Mahamsa Swami's family is one of the biggest multimillionaire family in Mumbai. He was a scion of that family. You must have seen in Mumbai advertising board, Selwell ads. So he's from that family. It's a Parsi family. And then Satswarup Maharaj, I see Pradyumna Prabhu, and so many, whole galaxy of powerful Vaishnavas along with Prabhupada have visited here. This is astonishing. And I never knew, I came here so many times, I never saw this room before. So this was a very astonishing thing. Oh, Prabhupada in South India, Jai. So therefore, we are able to sit here and have a nice ambience. Everybody is assured that after the lecture there will be prasad. But if you read, when Prabhupada was in Hyderabad, there was a lot of fight about, who would be cooking, and they could not find a proper cook also. If you read in the Pandal, Prabhupada is chastising. I remember that pastime. So that was a struggle at that time. So therefore, Kaviraj Goswami is saying that whatever seva was done by Vrindavan Das Thakur, I place it upon my head, and then I wish to continue further with his blessings. Murkhani chakshudramui Bishaya lalas Vaishnavagya bole kore etek sahas. So this is a very powerful verse where he is saying, I am murkha, I am foolish, neech, I am fallen, kshudra, I am insignificant. Vishaya lalas, I have no control over my senses. So how do you wish to accomplish? You seem to be unqualified for this service. Vaishnavagya bole kore etek sahas. But I have confidence in the power of the instruction and the order of the Vaishnavas, that if I allow those instructions to rule me, control me, Prabhu, Vaishnavagya bole kore etek sahas. Based on that instruction, I am having this confidence. I don't have confidence in myself, but I have confidence in the power of the will of the Vaishnavas, and that will of the Vaishnavas will make things happen. Shri Rupa Raghunatha Charaner Eibal जार स्मृते सिद्ध होए वांछिता सकल. And that is the power of the dust of the lotus feet of Sri Rupa Goswami. Sri Rupa Manjari Pada Say Mora Sampada Say Mora Bhajana Pujana Say Mora Bhajana Pujana. This was one of the favorite songs of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And therefore, Sri Rupa Raghunatha Charanera able. The lotus feet of Rupa and Raghunath has so much of power. Yara Smrite, by remembering that, Siddha Hoye, Vanchita Sakal. So when you are going through situations where it appears impossible, where all roads appear to be blocked, and the decision making becomes such a dilemma, we have no other choice but to pray to the Goswamis. Echai Gosai Jar Charana Bandhan Jaha Hoite Vigna Nash Abhishta Puran. So, multiple times I have personally experienced when everything appears hopeless, nothing is there, I have prayed to the Goswamis in front of the altar, and then miraculously things have changed. Jaha hoite vignanash, obstacles are removed, abhishta puran. So Radheshyam Prabhu was speaking so long about various things happened at the Govardhan Eco-Village, this and that. Yes, but it all happened as a result of continuous prayer. It is not a manifestation of engineering skills. It is a manifestation of the grace of the Vaishnava Parampara manifesting their will. And Radhanath Maharaj mentioned to all of us, the reason you were able to manifest all these temples and the Vrindavan forest and this project and fulfill the 5 desires of Prabhupada for New Vrindavan: cow protection, agriculture, education, 12 forests and 7 temples of Vrindavan and the guest house, was because the leaders did not fight with each other. The only reason you could accomplish this was the leaders cooperated with each other in spite of difficulties. There were differences of opinion, but you worked within the boundaries, with respect, with honor, with dignity. That is the only reason this could be done. Otherwise, it would have spoiled the whole thing. So therefore, typically, the whole world is waiting for Krishna consciousness to come. We are only imagining obstacles outside. We have to simply work on the obstacles inside. And automatically, the whole world will become open for Mahaprabhu's influence to spread in all directions. Yara smrite siddha hoye vanchita sakal. So therefore, the number of practicing devotees in this world is very meager. It is not worth having differences of opinion. There may be some differences which need to be resolved and move forward, but we cannot be too stubborn about it because the world is on fire. The firemen cannot be throwing water on each other. The water needs to be thrown on the fire. Right? So that cooperation is required. And then the entire world will benefit from Srila Prabhupada's wonderful vision. And Prabhupada came here, installed the deities here, and all these photos are very important because seeing is believing. When you see these photos, then you realized how many desires Prabhupada had to have Krishna consciousness established here in Hyderabad, spending significant time installing the deities, giving instruction, and I believe also he had a farmland somewhere nearby and all of those things. So therefore, all of you have been now invested with that legacy to take it forward. And all you need to do is contemplate on the instruction within, cooperate with each other, and compassionately take this mission forward. Success is guaranteed. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
He prepared. It's all about Hyderabad.
Okay. Wow. Only Hyderabad?
It's majorly Hyderabad. See. Huh? This is Rajshekhar Ratnamachari. Prabhu had a major role in giving inputs. All the photos yet we have kept.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Thank you very much for your wonderful devotional service and your contribution. And I think your contribution will be remembered forever in history for being a steady commander in Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's army here in Hyderabad. Hare Krishna. Vanchakalpatarubhascha kripa sindhu patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah.
బయటకి వెళ్ళి పెద్దగా ఏముండదు కదా, ఇంత సిస్టమ్
200 పెట్టి తీసుకుని ఇంకా ఎప్పుడో ఒకసారి వేసుకుంటే
నీ ఇష్టం, రెగ్యులర్ వాడుకుంటే వాడుకో, దాంట్లో ఏముంది.
ముక్కు దగ్గరికి వస్తుందంటే ఎట్లా వాడతాను నేను? ఇక్కడ వరకు వస్తుంది.
చాయిస్ నీది కదా. ఇప్పుడు ప్రేమ రోజు ఒక్కటి చూసుకోలేవు, కూర్చొని 10-20 నిమిషాలు కూర్చొని చూసుకున్నావు ఫ్రెండ్స్, నువ్వు సెలెక్ట్ చేసుకున్న ఫ్రెండ్ కదా.
అదే చూసుకుందా నాకు అప్పుడు ఇక్కడ వరకు వస్తుందంటే నేను తీసుకునేవాళ్ళే కదా.
అది ఎలా చూసుకున్నావు అది తెలియదు కదా, కన్ఫ్యూజ్ అయ్యి ఉంటావు.
10 సార్లు చూసే కదా తీసుకున్నాను, 2 సెలెక్ట్ చేసి
ఒకటికి ఒక ఫ్రేమ్ చూస్తేనేమో కన్ఫ్యూజ్ ఉన్నాము, 10 ఫ్రేమ్ చూస్తే కన్ఫ్యూజ్ కాదు. ఇంకటి వరకు ఏంటి కంటే నేను చూసిన ఫ్రేమే నీకు ఇచ్చినాను కదా. ఏ ఏ ఏ రోజు వస్తుంది చెప్పు. తెలిసింది ఉన్నాయా? చెప్పు.
బాండ్లో ఉంటాను.
అయిపోయింది, ఏం లేదు. అద్దాలు తీసుకోవడం కూడా పొద్దున్న వస్తున్నా, సాయంత్రం వస్తున్నా, ఇప్పుడు అటు ఇటు టైం వెయిట్ చేసేసి లాస్ట్కి 3-4 డేస్కి వచ్చి
ఎప్పుడు సార్
నీ ఇష్టం, ఎల్లుండి తీసుకుంటే నాకు ఏమి ఇబ్బంది లేదు. ఇప్పుడు ఎన్ని తీసుకున్నాడు అన్న తమ్ముడు? అన్న అవుతాడు, తమ్ముడు అవుతాడు. 13th పిలుస్తున్నాయి కదా రేణు, ఓకేనా? ఇది రేణు ఫ్రేమ్, ఇంకా నేమ్ ఉండదు.
ఫ్రేమ్ కూడా అదే
ఏదైతే ఉండదో అదే రాసుకుంటాం బ్రదర్.
మరి ఆ రోజు ఎందుకని అట్లుంది ఈరోజు?
ఇప్పుడు నాకేం తెలుసు చెప్పు, నువ్వే కదా చూసుకుంది. ఇప్పుడు నేను ఒక్కదాన్ని కాదు, ప్రతి ఒక్క ఫ్రేమ్ కూడా ఒడిస్సీ, ప్రతి ఒక్క ఫ్రేమ్ కంపల్సరీ రాస్తాం. సెల్ఫీ
రాలేదని మేము చెప్పట్లేదు, బట్ ఆ రోజు చూసుకున్నప్పుడు మాకేమి ఇక్కడ వరకు టచ్ అవ్వట్లేదు. ఆ రోజు
ఎలా చూసుకున్నావు? ఎందుకంటే
ఎక్కడైనా చూసుకున్నాం కదా.
ఎక్కడ చూసుకున్నా ఇప్పుడు నేను ఇస్తాను, నీ ఫేస్లో బాగా కనిపిస్తే బాగా కనిపిస్తుంది, సైజులు ఇవన్నీ కూడా నేను చూసుకుంటాను, నేను చూడను మెజర్మెంట్ చేయాలి.
అన్నీ సైజ్ కూడా చూసుకుంటాం కదా.
అదే చెప్తున్నాను, నువ్వు చూసుకుని తీసుకున్నావు అంటున్నాను నేను. ఇవనే అనుకో, కొందరు పెంచమంటారు, కొందరు తగ్గించమంటారు, కంపల్సరీ దాన్ని మెజర్మెంట్ రాసుకుంటాం దానిపైన. ఇవి ఫుల్ ఫ్రేమ్స్లో ఏముండదు, చూసామా ఇచ్చేసామా తీసుకెళ్ళిపోతారు అంతే. సైజ్ చిన్నగా పెద్ద తీసుకోవాల్సింది.
ఈ హాఫ్ ఫ్రేమ్ అయితేనేమో కట్టింగ్స్ డెవలప్ చేసుకుంటాం, మళ్ళీ ఫ్రేమ్ కూర్చోబెట్టేది కదా, ఫ్రేమ్ కొత్త చేసి
ఇంకోటి ఏంటంటే కనుక ఒక్కొక్క కంపెనీకి ఒక మోడలే వస్తుంది. ఇంకొకటి వేరే ఇద్దామంటే కూడా కుదరదు అక్కడ. ఒకవేళ మీరు మీకు డౌట్ ఉండేటి మన పెద్ద ఫ్రేమ్ ఇచ్చావేమో అనుకుంటే సైజెస్ ఒకటే ఉంటాయి. ప్రొడక్షన్ మొత్తం ఇవన్నీ కాదు, ఎంత ఫ్రేమ్ ఫుల్ ఫ్లెక్సిబుల్ వస్తుంది కదా. రౌండే కావాలి, వైటే కావాలి, ట్రాన్స్పరెంటే కావాలి. ఇప్పుడు పర్టికులర్గా బ్లూ షేడ్ వచ్చిన ఫ్రేమ్ చూపించారు కదా, దీని ఎక్స్చేంజ్ 253 అనుకున్నా కూడా మనకి ఎంత 50% వేరియేషన్ వస్తుంది. రెసిస్టెన్స్ చాలా ఎక్కువ పడుతుంది. మీరు ఇప్పుడు కాదు 4 years నుంచి నా దగ్గరికి వస్తుంది. శాంపిల్ తీసుకుంటారు, రేపు తీసుకుంటారు. అవుతాయి కానీ ఉండదు. బాక్స్ లో పెట్టుకుంటే కూడా ప్రయారిటీ ఇవ్వను, తీసుకున్నారు కానీ అది ఏంటంటే చంటి పిల్లలకి బిర్యానీ దాని తప్పేముంది? నిద్ర వస్తుంది బిర్యానీ తింటే రావాలి. మధ్యాహ్నం టైంలో నిద్ర వస్తుంటే మ్యాక్సిమం అంటే కంపల్సరీ
రాయల్